My cousin gave up a 14-year dependency on antidepressants after we had a conversation about mindfulness for just 45 minutes. This video is not going to contain any medical advice. I'm not qualified to give medical advice. This is just an account of what happened. This was one of the early experiences in my life that convinced me of the power of mindfulness, not just for myself, but for other people, and acted as the second piece of strong evidence that I was able to teach mindfulness to others. The first piece of evidence was after my mother attempted suicide. She was my first student, so to speak, when I shared with her what I'd been learning, what I'd been practicing. And over 6 months, we turned her life around. Well, I found out in the group chat that my cousin had been on antidepressants for 14 years. And I said, hey, you need to join the mindfulness gang. And I'm kind of just joking. Bear in mind, friend, the further back we wind the clock on this stuff, the more hesitancy there was among most people to engage with mindfulness, to even have the conversation. But this cousin of mine was desperate. It turned out she had done several different kinds of therapy and counseling. She'd tried all kinds of different drugs, all kinds of lifestyle changes to get over this depression that she'd had for most of her life. She would have been in her mid-20s, I guess, at that time. So we decided to talk. And I just gave her an account of how mindfulness had worked for me to get me over chronic stress, low self-worth, issues with intimacy. And this cousin of mine was aware of what mindfulness had done for my mother. Of course, my whole family was aware of my mother's suicide attempt. So there was an opening there, not least of all because there was evidence that this practice had been working for me and my mother, but also desperation is a very common starting point for people with mindfulness or the Dharma or non-duality. When we're really suffering, we're most inclined to look for an antidote to suffering. And when for 14 years we've been trying all of the solutions that our culture gives us first, and we've seen that they just don't work, then we're really open to looking for less common fixes, solutions. This is certainly how it was for me approaching age 30. I found nothing in my culture worked for me, and that's why I went and hung out with my monk friend for 5 years. We did a lot of remote study over the internet, but I went and visited Thailand and we spent a lot of time one-on-one together, and I learned that teaching from the East, which turned out to have the solutions to my problems at least 2,500 years ago. And so I told this cousin of mine what I'd been up to, and then we got around to talking about her situation. And she told me something that made my ears prick up. She told me that she was really into photography, and she loved doing nature photography in the woods, and that she had a spot that she loved to go to. She would drive up and she would take her camera, and she said that was like her happy place. And that when she was there in the woods, she forgot about all of the things that were making her depressed. She forgot that she even had a problem to solve. But then she said when she was done with her photography that day, then all of her problems would come back to mind, and she'd be back in that depression. And so I saw an opening. I said, here's what I'd love for us to do. Imagine you're there in your happy place. You've got your camera around your neck, you're surrounded by the trees and the wildlife. Not a care in the world. What I want you to do is see if you can take your happy place with you as you exit the woods. Can you, in a sense, maintain what is good about the happy place, those feelings? Can you bring them with you as you move toward the exit of the woods? And then can you bring them with you? Can you remain in that condition as you move into the car park? And then from the car park into the car. And I said to my cousin, this may be challenging. You might find to begin with that it's just impossible, but setting the intention at least that you're going to bring your happy place with you as you exit the woods is a great start. And we're just experimenting here. I said, I'm really going to be keen to hear how this goes. And it may take many, many visits for you to just begin to bring your happy place with you out to the car park. But then once you find success in that, once you find some stability, then into the car, and then on the drive home, then into your house, and then into the challenging life situations that you're dealing with, work, etc. And I said, we'll use the classical mindfulness practice of the mindful breath as a reminder. And we tried a couple of mindful breaths together on the phone, along with a quick and easy visualization of my cousin's happy place. Long, slow, deep in-breath, imagining yourself in that happy place. Long, slow, deep out-breath, imagining yourself in that happy place. And so we used the breath then as an anchor, as a support for when she was out in the world, doing all of the things that were acting as causes for her depression. I told my cousin that I was going to be really keen to hear how this went, and my suspicion was that we were going to go on to have a series of conversations. But I said, just go and run with that. See how it works for you. I heard back from my cousin 2 weeks later. She said, Dan, I flushed my antidepressants down the toilet. I've been back in the gym. Work is no longer a problem. All of the other situations that I was finding difficult are no longer a problem. This shit really works. Now, of course, I was very quick to give my cousin the same disclaimer that I gave at the beginning of this video, right? I'm not a medical professional. She said, yeah, whatever. I know all of that stuff. You know, she said, I've been working with therapists and counselors, whatever. She said, I know this works. I've been trying to fix this for 14 years. And what you told me works and continues to work. I said, look, if things take a turn for the worse, call me, okay? We need to be prepared for there to be some up and down here. You know, 2 weeks is not very long. She said, yeah, I get that. But she said, I feel amazing. I didn't hear from my cousin then for months, and maybe we exchanged a couple of texts. I think I just wanted to kind of check in with her. Essentially, it was all fine. It really did work for her powerfully, profoundly. And I would then see her at family occasions and, you know, we'd share a long hug and some very fond words together of how we just broke that 14-year spell with a 45-minute conversation. So as I said, this was some incredibly powerful evidence for me that the way that I had taken on this teaching and practice and the way that I was now communicating it to people really worked. So this experience with my cousin was a huge step on my route to going public with this teaching. I think this was back in 2020. And so that was right before I then came out online and started sharing about all of this stuff with the wider world. So I thought I'd just share that story with you today, friend. Powerful evidence, an inspiring story for your own practice. And you can hear, we didn't really go all that deep. I didn't even use the word non-duality with my cousin. She wasn't really interested in the deeper philosophy. She just wanted a tool that she could use to get her out of that pit of depression that she'd been in for 14 years. We go much deeper on this channel, typically. But I'm always saying I'm very keen to give another kind of disclaimer, which is relativistic or more beginner-sounding practices have their place. They are enormously powerful and beneficial. If I said the word non-duality to my cousin to this day, she wouldn't know what I was talking about because we didn't cover that stuff. But she found a solution that worked for her. If she ever wants to go deeper, she knows I'm here. But she may never need to. She may never need to. As I've said before, and as I'll say again, this is about finding a practice that works for you. And so I do have a few videos on just the absolute basics. I think if you search my channel for if you can't focus for 5 minutes, and I just give the very basic breath meditation. These are all tools that we can pick up and put down as necessary, and as always, the compass is dukkha, dukkha nirodha, as the Buddha put it. Stress, suffering, dissatisfaction, that's what the word dukkha means. And the cessation, the ending of stress, suffering, dissatisfaction. If what you're doing as a practice is leading to less stress, suffering, dissatisfaction, keep doing it. That's why we're here. If, on the other hand, you want to talk about non-duality and all of that wonderful stuff, great. Plenty of videos here on this channel for you, friend. I'll be back soon with another upload. If you enjoyed this story, leave me a comment. Let me know how it struck you. And of course, if you want to be sure to catch my next video, do all the stuff that tells YouTube you want to see it.